Yeah, of course, for us also AI, but maybe to go from a more, more point of view where we're coming from. It's like we're coming from like a SAP GUI or also in other parts of our life where we have a user experience. It was like, I don't know, 20 years ago, nobody cared about a user experience. And there it was just all the functionality was important, so put as much as possible inside. So use applications, and that was something we've seen here now for, I don't know, 10 years. And it's getting more and more important that everything is getting easier, that it's harder to make errors. And therefore then also the AI is playing into, because then we have the support from the AI. That's what's coming in now when we're like, talking about we can use chat interfaces to input our data, something like that. It's just the AI is supporting us now, and this is getting more and more, so it's getting more simplified and less error prone, to say like this. So that's what we are watching more in the complete thing, and then now, AI is showing up.
Michael, any things you're observing with your projects on UX trends?
Well, I think we have two perspectives. The first one is the perspective of the UX designers. They will be supported by AI for generating design proposals, generating mock-ups, and be supported during data analytics to generate later on the application. The other perspective is that the whole Fiori launchpad and the whole end user perspective will change using chatbots, using agents, and more supported by the system and do lesser errors because the system will prevent in both directions, from UX design perspective and also from end user perspective, that no error occurs or should occur.
And Johannes, you've been doing UX for quite a while. What have you been seeing trend-wise, and maybe looking into the future? And I'm sure the question will come up, so we'll just hit it now. At Sapphire, there was discussion about 80% of our interactions will be via Joule. Maybe you can comment a little bit on that.
How can I bring something else than AI in this panel now with this question? Of course, AI will change everything, and we see the effects already now. And I will do everything that was said before, so let me bring a little bit more texture to that. On the one hand side, I see that AI will show the weaknesses that we have in our businesses sometimes. To have a successful AI transformation, you first need to have a successful digital transformation before that. And your end users need to have accepted the digital processes that you've introduced into your company, because if the users do not use the process, do not create the data points, AI will never work. So whoever is not done with the digital transformation will now have to accelerate, and that's something that we see more and more. The UX transformation will accelerate. Think about the democratization of the whole process, that more and more areas in the company will start to embrace the end users in the journey, and they will accelerate the journey to go ahead with the digital transformation. Only then AI will be successful going forward. And if you think about what AI will do with the user interface, so I remember 10 years back when we first time talked about AI, there were some voices, UX is not needed any longer with AI coming around, everything will be super automated, and I think the contrary will happen. It will increase the demand to a good user experience, and whatever we will not be able to automate, that will be the difficult challenges that will remain. It will not longer be about entering a sales order into the system. These mundane tasks will be automated. But what do you do then with conflicts? How do we need to prepare our user experience to prepare for that? I see two major things. For everything that we will not automate, we would need to bring people together, and I see a huge effect and an increase in usage of collaborative tools to solve problems. Because whatever the AI cannot solve, I think also one person alone will not be able to solve. We will need to cross paths with multiple knowledge in the company and really make sure that we find the right people who can solve the problem. And how can they be successful? By having insights from the system at the moment that they need it. So our UI needs to become more flexible, more modular. We struggled in the past few years to create responsive user experience. Now we will see it accelerated even further, because the AI will have to bring in the context at the moment that you need it, in the form that you need it. And instead of rebuilding the UIs again and again, it will become more about semantics. We will need to understand what's on the screen. We will need to understand the insights, the actions. We need to propose the right things. We will need to be able to transform the UI in ways that we have never imagined before, to serve it to the user the moment that they need it to make a decision. And that will become a huge challenge. But on the other side, of course, when we create this user experience, the AI will accelerate massively. From user research to design and to building applications, all of that will change dramatically. And we will see some glimpses of that later on in the presentation that will show how you can create applications out of sketches, out of first ideas. And if you think that through, instead of having big workshops with your end users, business, and understanding what you need to build, at the end of the day, AI will have the solution already ready for a test drive for the end users. So I think that's very interesting times we're living on. There's already huge acceleration in the UX space, and UX will become essential to make AI successful.
So everyone talked about the end users. A lot of people still kind of cling to that SAP GUI. We can't wait till everyone retires. What do we do to convince people, or what do you all do when you're trying to sell a UX transformation project to convince people of the value of a better user experience, whether it's a Fiori experience or just better UX and overcoming change? Be honest with you.
Maybe I start, because that will prepare the stage for our partners much better. I think from SAP we have done a lot to embrace this Fiori journey. We have built, at this point, 4,000, 5,000 Fiori applications. You saw in the morning that our partners and customers last month have built 20,000 Fiori applications. We have the technology there. We have built the Fiori applications. We have deployed them to our customer sites. You have your hands on Fiori applications for almost everything in the system. Still, people are using SAP GUI. So this is a problem that cannot be solved by technology, that cannot be solved by additional deliverables from SAP. It's a transformation. You need to get your end users with you. End users need to understand what the value of Fiori is, and you need to understand what the value for the users in Fiori would be. You need to help them understand it. You need to understand their problem. We would need transition projects. We need to manage this transition. It will not happen automatically. If you deploy to the user next to the GUI applications and Fiori applications, they will not start to use it automatically. So that's part of the UX transformation. Get your users with you. And for that, our partners have fantastic concepts to get that.
Yeah, if you want me
Whoever
to,
wants to start.
no, definitely, I completely agree. I think one aspect is key. That you have to show the value, because I can totally understand why this business users who work in SAP GUI for 15 years, 20 years, they know their transaction, why they think, hey, that's the best tool I could possibly get. They learned it the hard way. They went through all the learning, through all the training, through all the enablement sessions, and now they're real pros in that transaction. So they have a little bit the fear of, okay, somebody is going to take something away from me. Finally, we need to show them that if we deploy and make use of the Fiori application, there's actually additional benefit in there. So we have to prove that it's better, so we have to integrate, and this is what SAP is doing, what partners are doing. We have to integrate the innovations into that, saying, hey, look, the process you had before is actually smoother, faster, more intuitive. It integrates more data sources. It's just better to use compared to what you had in the past, and we have to show that to the individual users. And finally, so this is one aspect I would highlight. The other one is still we need the management attention and the UX strategy and goal behind it, because at the end of the day, well, you can work with SAP GUI now with your power users, but onboarding new users, especially the younger generation, in that topic is going to be really, really tough, because they're used to use with other tools, more intuitive tools. So basically, I would say the combination: have the management buy-in, have a clear strategy, and then show that there's actual business value, and that there's not a big risk and fear. Because if you go with Fiori, you don't have to go through all the pain you went through like 15 years ago all over again. Go through all the training, do that over and over again, because finally it's intuitive, it's easy to use, it will give you additional business value and benefit, and I think with that we can really convince people to go that route with us.
And I said today in the morning, one question is, would you use, so then one was the MM01 to create material, will you use such a transaction on your mobile device in your private environment? And everybody will say no. And this is the answer. Okay, then you have to also think about, if you say the human interaction design guidelines from Apple or material design from Google, whatever, are really good, and you are used to use those applications on your mobile device, then it makes sense to think about, okay, in business life, I have those interesting, I won't say ugly, transactions, and I have to do multiple clicks to reach my button that I want to execute. And if you calculate, let's say, 5 euro cents, for example, each button click costs, then it's countable to see, okay, this is money. And I always go to our customers and say, okay, there is a quite cool tool, the UX calculator. It's 10 years old or something like this. And this calculator calculates at the end, okay, what is the revenue if you using a common UX? And for me, it's not important, the countable euro at the end. The interesting stuff are the questions. How many CRs are in the system to enhance or adapt an application after the deployment? And how many training hours do the users went through to be able to use the application, and so on and so on. So if you struggle with your end users about why Fiori, why, then open up the UX calculator, explain the idea of the tool, and then ask those questions. And then ask, okay, what are the costs for all the implementations, for all your dyn pros and web dyn pros and all the stuff? And they will say, normally, they will say, oh, it's complicated, it's expensive, and maybe it makes much more sense to take a look at the current business process in the company and think, is this really worth to have a custom a business process, or might it make sense to go back to SAP standard and using a standard?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was all like really good points, and what I would like to point out for that question is you're having this like two user groups, I would say. Like you have maybe the new joiners that are new to the SAP universe, and if you just provide them Fiori applications, they are going to be happy to use them, because it's, like we heard, it's closer to what we have in our private life, what is happening on our mobile phone. It's more intuitive. You can just start using it. And then on the other hand, we have the experience, the SAP GUI user. They're doing this like for 15, 20 years, maybe even longer. And for them, it's really there you have to do the convincing. There you have to say like, okay, somewhere from the top, like Christian said, you need to have a UX strategy. You have to say like, okay, on the long term, we want to change our user experience to SAP Fiori, because we see the potential in that. And then you have to say like, really, this is coming maybe top down, but you should really have a look at all the stakeholders are supporting it. And then you have the users that you really have to convince and say like, okay, we have this, the calculator for the user experience, what time savings you will have. You will maybe get a newer process, which is then optimized. And we're just bringing this innovation with Fiori. So we always say like, new innovation is coming with Fiori. If you stay with the SAP GUI, you're not getting all the new stuff, the nice stuff, the AI stuff, all that things are just coming with Fiori. And then you really have to get your users on board and say like, okay, this is the benefit for you. We're not doing this for us. Also when we are maybe from the IT, it's like, we're not doing this for us, okay, we're doing this for you, that you get faster to your results, that you are more efficient, that you have more time for the important tasks, stuff like this. And then I think it is hard work, but you will be able to convince your users. But sometimes maybe it's important to have like a first smaller target group, and to convince them it's maybe easier because they're more open. And then if they are like convinced, they're going to tell their other fellow colleagues and say like, okay, this is cool, try it out, it's not that bad, it's not, just because it's something different, it's not bad.
Well, in the context of change, we often have UX transformation going along with S4. Is there an optimal order? We see some customers doing the so-called technical migration. They go to S4 and don't change anything else. They keep the old GUIs. Some customers will do as much Fiori as they can in ECC and then move. What do you see as the right sequencing for getting to Fiori, other than sooner is better? Michael, you want to start?
I think there are two views on this question. The first one is, okay, when you're on ECC and you're not sure if it makes sense to implement your custom Fiori applications, then you might wait. But important is, before your transformation to S4, you have to have a look on your processes and you have to think, okay, go back to standard or not. And additionally, if you start implementing your applications, then you have to set up your guidelines, your coding guidelines, to make sure that when you move to S4 and you start with the transformation into the new SAP Fiori world, then you have everything in place and can start easily. The problem is, if you move too late, so if you are on S4 with your old applications, then normally those old applications will live very long as they are. And so my recommendation is start early, start also with your custom applications in the ECC world to transform them to modern application programming models like BOF-based applications using CDS views, even if you're on ECC, and just to make sure that you're able, when you're on S4, to using RAP, just change the business interface, let's say, and make everything possible on ECC level, the guidelines, the coding conventions, and how things should be done. You remember, understand your users, and set up that the business analysts are able to use Figma.
From our point of view, it's also start as soon as possible, because in the end, Fiori is coming. There's not really a way to avoid it. I just say this like that. I mean, probably there is a way to avoid it somehow, but we all know that's not the good way. But everything is possible. So also we would say start beforehand if you're still on an ECC. Have a look at Fiori, get some knowledge everywhere, have some first project, first processes where you say like, okay, here we are having a new process, or you want to change a process, then really go to say like, okay, we're doing this now also with Fiori, we want to get into this new world, because all what you have on experience, or what you're like getting an experience before you're going to the S4, this is valuable for when you're getting started with your S4 transformation, because that is experience you already have. So we recommend to start as early as possible, and if you did not do it before, then do it with your S4 transformation, because there you will in the end, or you should be having a look at every of your processes, like at your coding, if it's S4 ready and stuff like that. You will have to do this before you can transform. So this is like a great chance to also say like, okay, now I'm really looking into my processes, and I'm really looking, okay, how can I get somewhere closer to the standard? Where can I have a new user interface? And if you say like you're doing it after, you're going just with your coding to S4, and you do it after, you have to do this twice, because you always have to have a look at your code before. So, and maybe also one thing to the question before, if you say like, okay, we are having an S4 transformation, we are forced by SAP to change the underlying technology of our SAP system, that's also a good point to say like, okay, guys, like everyone in the company, we're having a change here, we have to do it, and we are also going to change the user interface with that. Like that's also, it's a great opportunity, the S4 transformation, to clean everything up and to get something new into running. So we really see the potential there. and not afterwards.
So big surprise, I say no after S4, no, of course. Start as early as possible, but why? So for me, this is similar to a lot of discussions I have at the moment around when to start with BTP, when to start your clean core journey, and I think it's all interrelated. So the idea of doing it in parallel to S4HANA is in theory not bad, but what happens in reality? So oftentimes, okay, you're just, everybody in the company is so focused on this S4 topic, is so underwater with everything. So everything that's not really 100% business critical is seen to, okay, we can take care of that later. We can take care of that later. I guess most of us in that room will agree UX is business critical, but unfortunately not everybody in the company might see it that way. So what happens is, okay, UX, it's nice, that was part of the discussion we would have in S4. This is the first thing we can postpone to later. And then we all end up in this technical migration. And then the question is, okay, when can we restart the journey again? So is it easy to restart it afterwards? Or is it another uphill battle with the management team to now focus on UX? So for me, that's the reason why, okay, the sooner you get familiar with the topic so that, okay, adding UX to the process is no longer complicated because you're already used to it. You know your processes, you know your tools, you know the technology, then it's easier to actually integrate it into your S4 world as well. If you have to build that knowledge within your S4 migration, I doubt that it will be a big topic and a big highlight of your transformation.
Yeah, I would totally agree to that. UX cannot wait. And there is no reason to wait. It's nothing that UX is nothing that happens overnight. It's a journey. And you need to start as soon as possible. You need new skill sets, you need new partners, new ways of thinking. And the earlier you start, the better it will be anyhow. You cannot avoid that. Even if you're on SEC. You might start smaller, you might identify what's the hotspots that you would like to address first. But the skill set that you learn and the experience you're getting there, that's something that we need anyhow later on in the transition. Even if it's getting the designers in place to understand your end users, get the end users to talk about their needs. And even if that means that at the end you will use a tool like Scrum Personas to configure your GUIs to fit better the current business, it's a mindset that you need to learn and your departments need to learn, and there is no reason to wait.
In looking at, when we saw the data up front of companies that were running all Fiori end-to-end and then so on down the line, are there any common success factors that you see in companies that have made the leap to being an all Fiori shop now? To be honest, you seem to be jumping on that.
Maybe I start other way around, because usually I'm called in when something gets wrong, so I can tell you when the projects are failing. And that's usually the times when end users were not involved from the beginning. If the IT department tries to make a UX transformation without involving the business and the end users, these are the projects that usually get wrong. And I think that's the most important one. Try to get all the knowledge that you need when you engage in the UX journey. End users are key. You need access to the end users, and you need skilled partners who understand the space. Other than that, if you try to do it without involvement of the business, that does not happen mechanically. You cannot take existing content and transform it into a successful user journey. That will never work.
I completely agree with the not involving the end users. But for me, this is always a little bit, so the two extremes. So I'm a big fan of just starting. I think with the whole topic, you cannot over-engineer it. You have to find your first use cases, your first scenarios to actually start working. But at the same time, you need to figure out, but if you want to be as successful as early as possible, how the final UX process could look like. So what's the right way to integrate the end users in the process? How can we work together with UX department or with external UX providers in the whole process? So this is, and for me, this is sometimes, okay, on the different ends of the spectrum. You want to start fast, but you want to have like a minimal optimized process for your UX strategy. But finally, it always, when I look back into our successful projects, it always started with a first set of successful Lighthouse projects. So people who actually thought, okay, I see the value of UX, and I'm willing to invest here, and I'm willing to go that route in that company. Maybe it's even a little bit the harder way, but this always worked out. Saying this is the Lighthouse. We showed the business value, and from there we define additional processes for the future to actually roll that out further into the company.
Business value, back to that UX calculator that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, to what Jana said, I would also say like most important is like the change management. Like I said before, that you have someone who is convinced about it and is also convincing other people, that you have the communication running, that the people are just where they are currently, that you really get them from that point to where you want to go. And that they really feel like part of the journey, not just like you're coming one day and saying, okay, this is your new user interface, that your new user experience, and you have to work with this now. Like really get some people to the table, get them involved, let them spread the news, let the people participate, and then yeah, a lot of internal marketing for your new user experience. It's really important. And then also maybe from the other side a bit, what we also figured out what is important is that you're staying close to the standard. Like not from the acceptance side, but you also have the problem like from the implementation side. If you say like, okay, I want everything like super specific for me, and then I have a lot or a huge effort for implementation, so everything is getting more expensive and also slower. And it's really important that you have like at one point where you can say like, okay, now we are able to provide everything for you to work in Fiori. That the people don't have to skip like from SAP GUI to Fiori because like you have two apps in your process, and at one place you still need a transaction. So that's also something that is not good for the user acceptance. So really try to go there, like go in a fast pace and provide something. It's like, okay, you can try it all here. We provide it all in Fiori. You can go this new way, and then it's good if you have like a Lighthouse thing that really says like, okay, look at this. This is great.
I have to agree to everything. And I don't have a but. At the end, I think the IT department should have a strategy where they want to go. Do they want to go on premise with Fiori Launchpad? Do they have use cases where they need to have access from the outside world using mobile start, for example, to access applications that are deployed on premise with a content federation available on the built work zone. So there should be an idea, a strategy where to go from the IT department side. And of course, Fiori is not a technical thing, it's a mindset. And so everybody should have an understanding what is Fiori and what will Fiori make with the people. And then the Lighthouse projects, even here, I guess 5 years, 8 years ago, SAP starts with some strategic things. They have something like, okay, customer or developers, if you want to implement the Lighthouse project, then you have 3 options. The first one was, go ahead and take a use case you think, it's a transaction, you think it might be worth to implement it in Fiori, and then go for it. Problem is, maybe you chosen the wrong use case, then it will fail. The other one was just report the often used applications, to take a look at the analysis data, and then say, okay, this application should be transformed to Fiori. Then this will be enable the Lighthouse that the application makes a boom and everybody wants to have Fiori in place. Maybe this is the meal plan that is often used, and you transform the meal plan into Fiori, and maybe this is not okay, we have to use Fiori. The third one is the technical approach. The technical approach is the one where we choose a department that have money and have the ability to influence the company, and it's the finance department normally. So years ago it was a good idea to start with analytical applications and provide them to the finance, make them mobile available, and everyone wants to have those applications. So the point is, you have to have a strategy in place how to influence the company and to say, okay, I want to have Fiori applications and I want to have them on my mobile phone because it's cool. And if I sit in the restaurant of the company and I open up this cool Fiori application, my colleague beside me looks over my shoulder and says, yes, I also want this cool application, but in my department. So I guess this is a good strategy to do it this way.
All right, so tying all these together, if we're going to make some firm recommendations, have a UX strategy, involve the end users, find a champion, ideally someone in a department with money, and move fast, if we're going to do all that. Any questions from the audience? Okay, while you're thinking of your question, so we have all these fundamental things. How does AI fit in? Is that an accelerator? Is it the accelerator? Is it the catalyst? Where does it fit with UX transformation? Christian's nodding.
Yeah,
He's ready to go.
Well, I started with that topic in the beginning as one of the biggest trends. I think we have to be careful not to come to a situation where AI is actually slowing us down, because we oftentimes see that okay, everybody's looking to the big trends, but forgetting to do their homework. This is one fear I have, to not just wait until Gen AI can solve everything for me, but just start working. Nevertheless, I see two topics. So one is really, I believe the Gen AI topic, the Joule topic in the SAP space is really, like you said, going to revolutionize the way we use it. We see topics like that. If 80% of the stuff can be done there, so the UX patterns behind it will be changing a lot. So a lot less applications, no more need for transactions. So this is in the long run really going to change everything. And in the meantime, I think we can actually leverage that tools for short-term business value. So automating things away, giving recommendations, that kind of stuff. Plus, like I said in the beginning, use the tools in the right way to simplify the UX process beforehand within the development process. So therefore, you have to have your UX process first, define it, but then really understand, okay, how can AI, generative AI, support me in that process to speed things up with prototyping, with user story generation, with I don't know what we'll see in the afternoon, but there's going to be a lot of stuff there. But for me, so this is the different messages. So it will change everything, but we shouldn't wait until it is there finally. We should also use the time in between.
Yeah, I'm thinking in a same direction. Like I said before, what I see for the big UX trend or transformation, what's happening, like that everything is getting simplified. And there we also see like the AI playing into that we can, or what we can start now is that the AI is supporting us with our processes. It can be really in the small parts. We don't, like Christian said, don't wait for the big boom and suddenly everything is working with AI. Probably that won't happen, or maybe it will. But don't wait for that, but just like think about where in your current processes, where can AI support us? Where can we have some benefit from that? From that, like with suggestions, with that you don't have to type everything into an input mask, but maybe that AI is already saying, oh, okay, normally you type in something like this, or this, if you have like this product, common problems with the product are maybe here, so for if you're taking complaints or something like that, then we can already leverage AI. Where it's also not that much that the user is like, oh my god, AI. So we can really start really slow with that the AI is just supporting us. And then we have also, like for the future, like the possibility that AI is more going into the lead. That we have also like that we are changing our user experience and with that our user interface, that the AI is more in the lead, that we maybe have more like, natural language support, that we don't have to, that we can like talk or write normal sentences, and then the AI is extracting the information that is needed for your business applications. And so the AI can have like more the lead of it, and then we will also see a change in the user interface then, and with that in the user experience, that everything's maybe getting a bit more like chat interfaces, stuff like this. And then there will be one day that the AI is like defining the process more and more, and that's more long term. Maybe we're thinking also, maybe then it's also more about speaking language, That we already know from Siri and Alexa that you can tell them something, and I'm pretty sure that AI is also playing a big part there. But that's like looking into the Glaskugel, we say in German, like the magic and the crystal ball. So we don't know what's happening then, but it's like we can start now with the AI, which is supporting us, which is influencing our processes slowly, and then it's getting more and more. And yeah, I think that's going to be a really interesting journey.
I can agree to everything. One point is important. We should make clear that nobody should be afraid to lose their job. So AI supports the people, supports the developer, supports the end users, and won't replace the people. And secondary, it is important, I think, that everybody have an understanding that things should and getting easier and can be automated, so that we have a lack of employees, then the systems should support us and not replace us, because I guess it won't work, and it shouldn't be our goal.
Yeah, that's a good point about the AI replacing jobs. I was having a chat at dinner last night, and there was a colleague that was using AI to do all these things that he couldn't do before, and making himself much more productive in his day-to-day work. So that's just using AI to get better at what you do and achieve more, and it wasn't going to replace anyone, definitely not in that. Any questions from the audience, or we stick to the paper? All right. I think in many cases, the people here are already experts and have good intentions to transform UX in their companies. You get called in often to unstick a project. What's the usual reason why a company can't do the UX transformation on their own? And I guess you get a pass on this one, Jan. And Michael, why don't you start?
We already talked about this in the morning. I guess the main problem is that there is no common understanding, in our case, what Fiori is. So if we have a common understanding that freestyle UI5 applications are not Fiori, then it might getting easier to bring the things on the good page of this Fiori story. And also, I guess another problem is that when we start with the Fiori Launchpad and using standard applications from SAP, and we just use, for those use cases, the Fiori-like applications or the standard transactions integrated into the Fiori Launchpad, then it won't work, because then the end users will always stick that, hey, I know this application from SAP GUI, so why should I change to the Fiori Launchpad? And so we have to have a common understanding, we have to establish the guidelines, and then it works. And then even important is, it is good to have an external partner on the boat, but the people and developers on site should be able to implement and design the applications by their own, to have a common understanding how things work, and then they can go to the external partners and let's implement the application.
Yeah, I'm always thinking also when you said like to unstick an UX project, there's often like, yeah, is it an UX project? Often it's like the company is starting and say like, okay, we're trying out Fiori now, we want to have a Fiori application, then it doesn't matter in the first place, is this now SAP UI5 or Fiori Elements, but just like, okay, they're thinking about the technology and we want to use that. But what is missing is, yeah, the UX, the decision for that. They're just like, okay, let's try this out, let's do this. But in the end, we really have to do an UX strategy before. We have to decide on something and say like, okay, we want to go with that, and what is our goal? Not just use this new technology, but what is the goal behind that we want to have this new user experience? And then often it is the problem, like Michael said, like from what is Fiori in the end, that there is some missing knowledge in the beginning. And it's just like, just let's get running, let's just try it out. And then it's often like nobody is really on the same terms, also what is all the vocabulary. So it's always the point we have then is like we're coming in there and saying like, okay, let's first talk about all the vocabulary. What is what and what do we want to achieve? Where should this be leading, not just going? So.
Absolutely. I would add one thing. So for us, most of the time, it's the main reason is because you're trying to tackle a UX project with the same tools and processes you used to tackle all the other projects in the past, and that's just not working. So it starts with what we heard oftentimes, that you didn't talk to the user in the first place, so what do you actually want to achieve? It continues with, okay, you're just handing this over, so a rough description of the requirements to your development teams. So they might have heard about Fiori, but not really about design concepts. So there are developers who are really, really good at UX, but finally it's not their core competency. So it's also the question, okay, do we need, for a real UX transformation, do we need to add UX designers to the process as well? Sometimes companies do that, that's what we see, but adding UX designers who don't know Fiori then, so what's possible? So you were talking about the freestyle Fiori or freestyle UI5 applications. Something comes out that has nothing to do with the design system. So again, doesn't have a unified user experience and that kind of stuff. So finally, what we see oftentimes is, okay, you need to adapt or enhance your process a little bit, add the right skills and expertise. So adding a UX designer at the right point in time to do some requirements engineering, do some design thinking, translating those requirements to concepts and designs that actually work with UI5 and Fiori is just such a great starting point for the development team to take over. And this is, so most of the time there's a little bit of friction in one or two of those aspects. And if we come in and have a look into the overall process again and ask a couple of questions and maybe enhance the concepts a little bit, then things are running a lot smoother in the future.
So, ways to get unstuck, ask the right questions, and bring graphite to get rid of the friction.
Yeah. Get visual. I think it's just, well, we're talking about that for such a long time, but getting visual in the beginning, really understanding before you had a single line of code, understanding how the final application should look like is just so much more important compared to writing down 100 pieces and sheets of paper.
You're going to love the demo this afternoon about getting visual. No question about that.
And one other thing is to follow a strategy, to understand how you would like to implement Fiori. Because way too often some customers who try to implement Fiori in a mechanical way. I had a Fiori application with Fiori, I did this one, then the next time around when another department has time to add a Fiori app here, similar here, Fiori application here and there, that doesn't help you, that doesn't get you anywhere. You need to understand where you want to go first. What are the users that you would like to help and how their journey is holistically. Giving to a user who is using 90% GUI one Fiori app in addition will not do anything, will not solve the problem, will make it even worse for the future.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because at one of the ASA conferences, it was an ASA call, one of the customers said, oh, we tried Fiori and we got zero business value from it. And everyone just was shocked. And then a couple of the people said, well, did you change your business process? No. Did you involve the end users in this? No. Did you put in an end-to-end process? No. And then they said, okay, well, that's why. If you do these things, you will definitely get business value from it. So kind of focusing, and this will be the last question, what recommendations would you give to a customer to do 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, so they can really accelerate their Fiori journey? And we'll go this way, so Giannis gets the last word.
Maybe the first thing, like not in 1 month, but today, take all you get from here, and also use like the chance to talk to other SAP customers, to talk to SAP, talk to partners, and just get every knowledge you can gain from here. Take that all with you. Okay, that's really important. Also, like that talking to the other customers, what they are experiencing, how can you benefit from having SAP Fiori? And like that would be the first point. And then like for in a month, yeah, just gain knowledge if you don't have some. Get your first, analyze your business, get your first, maybe like a POC or something, like your first process where you say like, okay, here I can really see that, where we can maybe change something or can improve our process, and can also do this with a new user experience, and then just get started. Get started as fast as possible, and yeah, get yourself some help. To say it like this, you don't have to do that all on your own. Also, when you're like in a company where you don't have the knowledge yet, you can get that knowledge somewhere. You can, of course, hire new people. You can say like, okay guys, who's interested in the new topics, or let them all do the learnings. Get yourself a partner. Just, you need the knowledge to start it right. That you're not like in the beginning, like everybody is running in one direction and doing, or like not one, like everybody in a different direction. And it's just getting to mess it up before it even begins. So really try to go it in a strategic way, let's say it like this. And then just get started.
You covered a lot of what's going to be in the final presentation and the links of communities to get involved in. We have a users group, and I know many of you from there that meets every month. So Fiori developers and architects talking about how to move forward with that. So good setup for later.
First month, establish a common understanding what Fiori is, and get in contact with the DSAG and the user groups there, just to see how other companies did it or are currently doing it. Then make it possible that your business analysts are or know the Fiori design guidelines, know the floor plans, and if possible, they should be enabled to use Figma to, with the stencils of SAP, to create the prototypes. If it's not possible, try to get a UX designer in your company or from a partner that supports the business analysts to create the mock-ups. Important is the designer should know Fiori, and they should know the technologies, how to implement Fiori, and also he should be aware of the key extensibilities and the flexibility services. So it is not always necessary to implement a new application. There are so many tools provided for end users, key users, and of course then for developers to create a variant from an application. And the last point is then, if everything is in place, it's always a good idea from my point of view and also from our experience to do this top-down, bottom-up thing I talked today in the morning. So design is top-down with the end user. After that you have your data structure and you have an idea of what data are needed in the front end, and then bottom-up means implement your CDS views, the virtual data model, your data service, your element UI if possible. If you have a floor plan like initial page, then you have to implement it by using UI5 freestyle, and at the end integrate it in your strategic tool set like Build Workzone, Mobile Start.
And you mentioned getting educated about Fiori Elements. Quick show of hands. How many people here have taken the OpenSAP course on Fiori Elements? All right, seems like most, so good. If you haven't, join your peers and do that. A really great way to get started on that.
Yeah, so assuming you have you start from scratch and you have 6 months, I would try to combine the two worlds and getting your hands dirty, figuring things out, trying things out, and creating a strategy. So 1 month, I would really, you were talking about the champion. So ideally find your champion and go to Fiori Apps Library, figure out what are the relevant Fiori applications that could fit you, and start playing around with it. Not necessarily directly on production, go to your sandbox system, try out. Just get familiar with Fiori. Bring it to production in the next month so that it's really, really used, and also at the same time get familiar with this extension concepts. Because I think one thing that's important is if we had that discussion before, if you think Fiori is just the way it is and it's standard and you cannot change anything, it will bring a lot of problems to the table. So make sure from day one that you know, okay, it's extensible. There's key user extensibility. You can have custom Fioris. You can use Fiori elements. So this is something you need to, as a foundation. And in parallel, for the 6 month, start really working on your UX strategy. Maybe find a partner if you have concepts on your own. But think about, okay, what's your goal? Where do I want to? What do I want to achieve with improving UX, with my UX transformation? And what do I need to change internally in order to support that process and start living that process?
I think everything was said already, but I think you're here today, so that's already a good starting point for day one. Connect yourself. There is a big Fiori community around. In the meantime, we have a lot of customers, a lot of material, a lot of formats that can help you on that. Make yourself familiar with Fiori. Try to build up your strategy, how you would like to approach the UX transition in your company. And in the meantime, start slow, start small. Find out the first things that you would try out, the first users you would like to engage with, the champions. And try to get iterations as short as possible and get close. And the first goal for 6 months will be close the loop. Have the first interviews with users, have the first ideas what to do, roll the changes out to the users, and find ways how to utilize feedback so that we can course correct.
And bringing some Silicon Valley wisdom, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good enough. So you may not get the perfect experience across the board, but get something that's good enough, that makes life better for people, iterate, and move on. Thanks everyone, and we will move on to some more demos this afternoon.